Some of the scariest stories in Resident Evil Remake aren't told through cutscenes or dialogue. This game builds atmosphere, deepens the lore, and sometimes tells separate narratives, and they're not always told through cutscenes either, but well-placed notes, dead bodies, or just the actual environment surrounding the player. In this video, I want to highlight some of my favourite examples of environmental storytelling in Resident Evil Remake. Because as much as we get story and narrative told directly to us, there are many stories hidden throughout the walls of the Spencer Mansion that I want to explore. So sit back, relax, and join me as I tell you about environmental storytelling in Resident Evil Remake. Before we dive in, let's quickly break down what environmental storytelling actually is. In simple terms, it's when a game tells a story through the world itself, not through cutscenes nor dialogue, but through the location you're exploring. It could be blood smeared across a hallway, or a diary next to a locked door. It's a narrative told through visuals, sound design, object placement, and most of all, atmosphere. In horror games, this kind of storytelling hits especially hard. It lets the player uncover the story for themselves, which often makes it more personal and way more disturbing. So I did kind of touch on this already in a previous video, but that was more so a general look at RE Remake and its atmosphere. But here, I want to focus in on specific moments from the game. Now, if you looked around the Spencer Mansion as you explore it, you can find little bits of environmental storytelling absolutely everywhere. The Spencer Mansion is just packed with character. It feels like another living presence in the game. Its location is just like another character like Jill or Chris, instead of just purely being a set piece we explore. So that leads us to the first floor of the Spencer Mansion. In this corridor, players can enter a room, a bedroom that belonged to some Umbrella employees. We can see a dead body on the floor as we enter, as well as notice that the room is pretty messy and in disarray. We then see a closet spring to life with something inside banging hard on the doors just begging to be let out, which then suddenly and abruptly stops. On a nearby desk lit only by a faint lamp, we find a bottle of alcohol, some spilled pills, and most importantly, a journal. And it's one of the most famous documents in the franchise, The Keeper's Diary. Even so popular, a short fan movie was made about this note, which I highly recommend you check out. Anyways, the note starts off as normal, as the author details typical after-work banter with him and some other Umbrella employees playing poker. The following entry then sees the author be assigned to look after a new creature by an Umbrella hire-out. He describes this creature as a skinned gorilla, and that he was told to feed alive animals. And when he threw a live pig into its enclosure, the creature didn't just kill it and eat it. Instead, it played with the pig, tearing off its legs before pulling out its guts. Poor little piggy. The creature he's been asked to look after, I assume, is the hunter, just by its description alone. Now, this is where things start to go wrong for our pal here. The next day, he is rudely woken up by one of his buddies super early in the morning. His pal Scott is now wearing a protective suit. Scott hands our author a separate protective suit and says to put it on, and that there's been an accident in the lab. To which the author remarks, saying he knew this would happen. The following day, we see the author begin to grow agitated, since he has been stuck wearing this protective suit since the accident, stating that his skin now feels itchy and grimy. He even remarks that the dogs he was set to look after have been looking at him funny, so he decides not to feed them today. Our author's back has now begun to itch and become swollen, so the next day he heads to the infirmary. The doctor there puts a large bandage on his back and told him that he didn't need to wear the suit any longer. That's a relief. Although, we see that the author's condition is continuing to worsen, as he has now found a large blister on his foot. He also remarks that when he goes to the dog pen, they were quiet, which he finds strange, but that's because some of the dogs have escaped out into the wild. That can't be good. Rumours then circulate that a researcher who tried to leave the Spencer estate was shot dead. These rumours don't help our author's anxiety given the current situation, and they only worsen his condition, now saying that his body is hot and itchy and he is constantly sweating. The next day, the author innocently scratches his swelling on his arm, and he finds that a large piece of rotten flesh has fallen off his body. It seems like our author is actively falling apart. This would be the last of our author's fully coherent messages, as his next entry, the English becomes very basic, if you will. May 19th, 1998, fever gone, but itchy. Today hungry and eat doggy food. Despite how funny I find the word doggy here, the author is clearly transforming into a zombie. His next entry only confirms that. Itchy itchy, Scott came, ugly face, so killed him, tasty. I'm surprised by this stage in his condition, he can even write at all considering he is now munching on his fellow Umbrella colleagues. And our next entry will be the researcher's last. Without even a date attached besides the single number 4, it reads, itchy, tasty. What an iconic line to end this unforgettable journal. But that's not the last we would see of our author here, oh no. Remember that closet that was trashing around when we first entered the room? Well, out now bursts our author from the journal, fully mutated into a zombie, and he is not happy that we entered his room. The other dead body also shakes to life, who I presume to be Scott, the friend our author killed. But don't worry, I took care of both of these zombies. And the reason this journal is so iconic to me is because of the way it details the slow and gradual descent into becoming a zombie. The fear, the paranoia, the mutation of the body. This also directly mirrors another note we'll get into in just a moment. The Keeper's Diary is great environmental storytelling, and it's one of my favourite moments from this game. Next up, we make our way over to the guardhouse, which is just at the back of the Spencer mansion. In this building, we see how another duo of Umbrella employees met their ends, but it happens different to how it happened in the Keeper's Diary. In the guardhouse, we find a room called the Residence, or Room 001, which is a dormitory of sorts for Umbrella employees. Upon unlocking the door and entering, immediately we are met with a graphic sight, as we see an Umbrella employee hanging from the ceiling via a rope. And come to think of it, just before I had entered this room, in the safe room directly opposite Room 001, on the shelf we can actually find a bundle of rope. Upon inspecting it, Jill comments saying that the rope seems to be freshly cut, so it seems we found out where that rope went. And there's just something so disturbing about how this is all shot. Of course, it's disturbing to see a person hanging like this, but the music in this section combined with the noise of the rope straining under the weight of the person fills me with such chills. Walking slowly past the hanging man now, we see next to him on a desk a weapon. A small gun labelled as a self-defense pistol. Underneath the pistol is a suicide note. This note is dated to late June. If we follow the timeline of dates from the Keeper's Diary, this has been about a month since the accident that created these zombies, so the Spencer estate was in full meltdown mode. The note opens with a chilling yet guilty phrase, "I had to do it," with the author stating that he had to kill his friend Robert as he was showing symptoms. He remarks that there was no other way and that he would have done the same if it was the other way around. He mentions how after he put Robert out of his misery, he left him in the bathroom, and now that I think about it, we did seem to pass a bathroom on the way into this room, so that must mean Robert is still there. And as you know, these zombies in this game don't die unless you blow their head off or unless you light them on fire, and with this little pistol, I don't think our author managed that. Anyways, back to the suicide note. We see that the author feels guilt for working on the T-virus and Umbrella in general, stating that he's going to get what's coming to him eventually, and even saying now that he's lost all hope of escaping. And the next entry is the most powerful here. The author talks about his suicide being prepared and that he's going to regret leaving many things undone, but the paranoia of becoming one of these monsters is too much for him and he wants to end his life on his own terms. Now that's the end of the suicide note. However, on the back, there is something else wrote down. It reads, "Linda, please forgive me." A sad, somber end to this note. His girlfriend or wife whom he will never see again, sadly. And now, remembering that the person who wrote the suicide note had to kill his colleague, if we examine the self-defense pistol, we can see it actually holds 2 rounds, and there is actually 2 shell casings in the gun. However, there is only 1 bullet, which is a nice little detail to show that the gun was used. Now, if we enter that bathroom I passed upon earlier, we can see the body of Robert as stated in the note. He was shot and left in the bathroom. But while we search the bathroom, we can hear something snap and a loud bang come from the main room. But not only that, after emptying out the water in the bathtub, the supposedly dead Robert springs to life, which for his efforts, I gave him the other bullet from the self-defense gun to the chest. I then exit the bathroom, and while I was being cautious after hearing those weird noises while inside, I now instantly see the result of them. I notice that the hanging man is now gone, and as I slowly try to creep around the corner of the room, I'm grabbed by the supposedly dead hanging man, with the noose still wrapped around his neck. But don't worry, I made sure to put him down for good. And why I like this section so much is because just like the Keeper's Diary, it portrays paranoia and the downfall of those in the Spencer mansion really well. And these notes then affect you and how the game scares you, like how the Keeper's Diary talks about dogs escaping, which later come flying through the windows at you. Or the mere description of the hunter itself. It puts the player on edge and foreshadows later events. I really feel like these specific sections are part of what makes this game so special and my favourite Resident Evil. Because these aren't the only 2 examples in this game either. These were just the ones I chose to include for this video. If I were to talk about all the little details and environmental storytelling in this game, I would be here for hours. So I think it's best to wrap up here. If you would like to see me cover more stories hidden throughout the Resident Evil remake, perhaps the story of Lisa Trevor, let me know down below. And for now, that's going to be all for me in this video. So I want to thank you so very much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Peace.